Some DNOs are talking about doing cost updates. Some of those could be cost updates based on latest framework prices, as well as taking into account either changing the solution or inflation, everything else. So if your costs change, if your point of connection changes, even if it stays the same, there could still be kind of some of the detail that changes. Your date also could therefore change. Does the template in which it's based on, has that changed since you had your original offer in 2022? Template completely changed. Of course, milestones will have changed.
The new milestones.
So before you know it, you're sitting in front of a brand new offer.
Welcome to the Connectology podcast. I'm Hugh Taylor, CEO here at Roadnight Taylor, and in these episodes, our grid connection specialists, the Connectologists, dive into the evolving grid connections landscape, often taking expert guests with them in order to discover, generate, and share insights that might just help you and maybe even industry as a whole to connect projects faster, at lower risk, and at lower cost.
Hello and welcome to another Roadnight Taylor Connectology podcast. I'm Pete Aston, one of the engineers here, and I'm joined by Murchie and Alex Ikonic. Welcome both.
Hello.
Thanks.
And thank you everyone for joining in and listening. Today we are going to be talking about Gate 2 offers. So really this is trying to pick up on top tips for what to look for in a Gate 2 offer, top tips for things that might need to be looked at that aren't in the Gate 2 offer that sort of impact on the viability of the Gate 2 offer. So it's picking up on all of that. So we're expecting Gate 2 offers to sort of be coming out by now. And customers will be starting to look at these offers and trying to work out whether they should accept them or not. So yeah, we're going to dig into that a little bit, see if we can provide some sort of help to the wider industry on the sorts of things to look out for. So maybe I'll come to you, Alex, first. Anything that sort of jumps out of you as to what needs to be looked at from these Gate 2 offers?
So I guess the kind of key bits that you want to look at first is what is the acceptance period. So we are expecting that transmission offers are going to have 3 months to accept, but you will have to submit any queries that you have in the offers in 4 weeks, I think they said. So yeah, you just kind of need to be careful to act quickly on that. Review your offer, make sure does it have all the requirements you were expecting? Has a lot changed from your previous offer? And for distribution offers, we are expecting about 4 weeks, although it might vary between DNOs we've heard.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky one because at the moment there isn't quite as much coordination. Maybe by the time this has gone out, there's maybe some coordination around the community. But because we can understand where the 4 weeks comes from, because they'll obviously be giving an offer from NISO. They'll then have maybe 3 months. Importantly, Securities, there's all a conversation about 30 days effectively after acceptance. So they have quite a short time frame to turn everything around. But there's maybe a bit of an argument of whether is 4 weeks a little on the short side? Could it be 6 or 8 weeks? Maybe not the full 3 months. And I was thinking that one of the first things, even if you don't have all the offers out now, is just doing that kind of sense check of, well, when do I think the offers are going to come out and which ones do I think are going to be the most challenging? Because if you still had issues back before reform started, then those issues are probably still going to be inherently there. So how much can we do now to try to mitigate and consider?
So I guess in terms of developers looking to prepare themselves for the Gate 2 offers coming out, one of the things is going to be making sure you're ready to act quickly. I guess that's the sort of takeaway from this timescale issue. Transmission offers a bit more time to accept the offer, the 3 months you're saying, but obviously they're more expensive, more liabilities and so on. So a much more significant piece. But the DNO offers maybe a bit, cheaper, less liabilities, but really short time period. And so I guess developers are going to need to have all the resources in place so they can turn this around quite quickly. I think we'll probably circle back to the time piece in a minute as we work through some of the other things that need to be checked, because certainly feels like 4 weeks is a little bit on the tight side. So Kyle, within the offers, what are some of the pick up a key thing that you're going to want to have to
have a look at. Oh God, where'd you start? I mean,
you can only have one thing.
yeah, I think if your DNO offers, the first thing is to understand is what is changing. We hear about DNO offers as whether it's now or even in the recent past, and whether it's variation, is it an offer variation? People will be quite understanding what variations look like. They're normally obviously quite short, sharp, and to the point. So you've got your offer, and then you've got your variations that build on top of that. So is this another one, or is this effectively, irrespective of what it's called, but is this a new offer? Because if some DNOs are talking about doing cost updates, some of those could be cost updates based on latest framework prices, as well as taking into account either changing the solution or inflation, everything else. So if your cost change, if your point of connection changes, even if it stays the same, there could still be kind of some of the detail that changes. Your date obviously could therefore change. Does the template in which it's based on, has that changed since you had your original offer in 2022? Template complete change. Of course, milestones will have changed.
The new milestones.
So before you know it, you're sitting in front of a brand new offer. So I think therefore thinking about it as a variation, some will be very much a variation and relatively straightforward, but others we're expecting could be quite different.
And is there a risk, Alex, of in DNO offers, like the points of connection changing, do we think? Or are DNOs likely to just keep the POC the same, or do we not know?
I think it will definitely vary between offers. I think we will see some offers that do have points of connection that change. It's probably more likely that they'll have the GSP that changes. So the GSP connection, which is related to the statement of works. So potentially we might find that a new GSP isn't needed, and that it's going to connect to an existing GSP, which could be further away, could be more costly in the end. Yeah. Or could have restrictions. It could be under A&M. So yeah, we definitely do.
Yeah. So I guess if there's one of the, if your DNO offer had been to a, such and such a connection node substation that doesn't exist, and they now go, oh yeah, we don't need that anymore. You're back to some other GSP, and like I say, it could be further away, which is an interesting thought. That is technically the overall best solution, but it costs.
Yeah, for the individual project, it might not be the optimal one.
Yeah. I'm just thinking at a transmission level, obviously for projects that are 26, 27 and protected under clause 1 or 2A there shouldn't be any changes. In theory, there probably will be some subtle variations that maybe happen for various different reasons, but effectively, we're not expecting major changes. But certainly later projects, because many projects have nodal names, node. I was going to say Z, maybe that's a little bit far, but Zod, node B, C, D in a particular location. And the idea, certainly the concept, has always been that those will be firmed up. There'll be a much clearer view of what that is, and therefore a bit of a coordination of, we don't need a A, B, C and nodal kind of setup. We'll have one substation. This is where it'll be. So for those projects, and most of them are probably slightly later, 2030 and maybe beyond. But certainly for those projects, it could look quite different. Yeah.
With a DNO offer, are we expecting the DNO offer to include a sort of the detail of the transmission works required? So they'll obviously have all the DNO works, and like we said, might be some variation on actual work scope or costs or whatever. But they should say the transmission works are, X, Y, Z, and here's your actual costs towards this, and your liabilities and securities. We're expecting all that to come in?
Generally, yes, but I do think we'll see some instances where the DNO maybe isn't able to provide all that information. So we are expecting there will still be some nodal substations, some new GSPs that are still needed. And in those cases, the DNO may still need to do some extra detailed design, a couple of years from now, to find the location of that GSP, to work up those extra costs. So I think, those clauses are here to stay, unfortunately.
Yeah. And just like we see offers at the moment that still have, this is a variation based on the requirement to do another mod app. So this is a mod app between the DNO and NISO for various different reasons, whether it's database changes or, as you say, substation changes or new substations being built. But those mod apps haven't happened. So if they don't happen and aren't able to happen now, they're not going to happen until you've accepted your offer. So really, we could still be quite a way away from that level of detail really being known. So yeah, unfortunately, while there should be out of this process a lot of additional certainty, doesn't remove some of the uncertainty for a number of cases.
Thank you for listening so far. If insights like these are valuable in your work, then feel free to subscribe and stay current as Britain's connections landscape continues to evolve. Now, back to the connectologists.
Just thinking of some transmission offers now. Obviously, transmission offers will come out with different categorizations of works, one-off works, connection asset works, enabling works, and then sort of the way that that's built up into your connection charge and securities, liabilities, and so on. Are we expecting all of the offers to be perfect?
I think if you've been in the industry for more than 5 minutes, we'll know that best will of intention, then the quality could be high. It's interesting, and I think this is the point around quality when we talk about quality in kind of from our perspective of the industry and from a developer's perspective and user's perspective. Quality isn't necessarily just making sure the spelling is correct and making sure the format looks pretty. It's much more about, is the technical detail correct? Is there challenge as well? And just kind of that sense checking against what the TOs put forward. It's one of the big reasons why we and many others say we do need some information published. Tech register one thing, but TORA reports, just transmission works registers, all that type of thing updated, because there needs to be that sense check. When you get an offer, I suppose the danger is you have to challenge everything. If you have no other information around you to really allow that to be done accurately, then you obviously have to go back to the TO and the NISO to do it. Publishing information allows a bit of self-processing, self-management, and then therefore the queries that come back and those TQs that come back be much more measured.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point in that, no one should expect all the offers to be perfect. That's not realistic. But I think just having that avenue to have those discussions with the DNO or NISO or the TO, if you do spot any mistakes, and being able to rectify them in appropriate timescales, I think that's kind of what the key bit is for me.
And for some transmission offers that I've seen, so some of the things that are often a bit questionable and that you need to dig into is like trying to tie up the works in the S-curve compared to the works in the construction agreement appendices, and they don't have all the same project numbers here and I can't quite tie them up. Or the works for this bit of reinforcement says it's going to lead to this much addition, new capacity on the circuit, but that's not what it looks like has been used to calculate the SIF for this factor for my securities or something. So it's it's quite there's quite a lot to dig into, and admittedly they're complex and quite a lot that could go wrong. So it's challenging, I think, to do all that within 3 months.
Absolutely, yeah.
Particularly when you think about transmission offers and the number of appendices, and obviously they mature over time. You get different versions. We were talking earlier about a version that was now on like version 23 or something like that. So BCAs do change over time, but every version isn't a full suite of all the new documentation. But with this type of change, if we do end up with a new substation name being mentioned, maybe clauses like technology-based clauses coming out or going in, hopefully it's coming out, we could end up with actually most appendices all being updated, and the BC and the construction agreement being changed as well. So really, you're then starting with almost a back to day one type level of detail, all needing to be reviewed and can go through. So yeah, I think for me it's the review and being prepared for it, but it's also then thinking about what are the key challenges for my project. If you're quite certain that point connection is not like this change, you've got a connection in the not too distant future, a lot that's been progressed with already, then is it costs? Is it cost certainty that's going to be the problem? if there's costs in there that are significantly higher, and we have seen, as we know, transmission connections that have seen 50, 60, 90% sort of level of increases, then okay, well, what is that? Has that changed, and how do we challenge that? Because that might not have changed significantly for the better, and how does that allow you to move forward to FID?
What else? There must be loads of other things for Gate 2 offers.
For Gate 2 offer, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's, for me, one of the other things is thinking about, it's costs, obviously, as we've just mentioned, timescales, and the implication of, well, what are you agreeing to? But then what's next? I think we were talking about that earlier. What is the next step? As soon as you get the offer and you maybe reviewed it and you're in a comfortable position, what do you do once you've accepted? Is it, oh, that's 5 years away, let's put that on the shelf? Or do we need to be getting on the phone and starting to have conversations? The DNO connection, 132 kV tower works that might not be part of your connection, might be part of the reinforcement. Has the DNO started that? Are they waiting for you to give payment? Has the TO progressed their design? Lots of TOs have kind of gated sort of windows and processes as well. Are they saying, well, we've done a Gate 0 paper, but not progressed anything because you haven't asked us to? And particularly with reform, I think there's a lot of opportunity for these pauses to happen. And I think for me, it's then get to the point where you're really confident that you want to move that project forward, then actively try to move it forward, which I know is easier said than done if the communication channels are limited.
And what about timescales at transmission, Alex? Because we were talking earlier about how some of them seem sometimes quite optimistic.
Yes. I think, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think, even on the developer side, you still have to go through all the detailed design and the procurement as well. So a lot of these projects that we'll see come out of Gate 2 will be, quite chunky projects, 500, 600 plus megawatts. And if they are delivering over the next couple of years, they'll have to think about supply chains and, long lead items, so transformers and even switchgear that we're seeing kind of have much longer delivery times than we have in the past. If you're contracted to meet a certain date, I think it will be a lot harder in the new world to sort of postpone your connection dates. So you need to be fairly confident that you can meet the date.
But I also think on the flip side of, you as a developer need to be confident you can deliver the date there. But on the flip side, I guess you need to have some sense as to whether the TO is able to deliver the date that's got put in the offer as well. Because, if you've got an offer that's, new 400 kV connection in 2 years and no work has yet been done, that's not going to happen, is it? So it'd be interesting to see what the sort of timescales are that come out, because if you're a developer and you're working really hard to try and deliver a connection date that then the TO can't actually deliver, if it was an unrealistic date in the offer, then that's a mismatch of sort of effort. Then TO and developer really want to be, I guess, ramping up effort at the same time to deliver on the same date.
Well, we talk about the compliance process. Even NISO says 18 months minimum before energization. And to start that compliance process, you have to have a design. The TO has to be engaged. They would normally have several engineers, if not the SAP, on the meeting from almost day one. And that's 18 months to 2 years before. So if that's happening then, before energization, you've had at least another year, if not more, beforehand. So, if you're connecting to inget in a nice fresh bay and it's sitting there all nicely polished, ready for you, it's a kind of skeleton bay and you can move straight in, 3 years is maybe doable, but it wasn't that long ago we were still talking about 5 to 7 years from kind of acceptance in a reasonably quick moving project. Not the fastest, but at kind of general pace would be 5 to 7 years, which is quite different, as you say, from some of the timelines we've seen most recently.
And then I guess there's a sort of, with all these Gate 2 offers, there's a slightly bigger picture piece as well. So there's I've got my individual offer here, and to review that. That's really important. But as an industry, I guess there's a wider piece, isn't there, to go. Has this been put together sensibly? Is my connection really in the right place? Should it be in this substation and not this one? And have we got any sense about how the industry can actually hold NESO and the TOs to account on that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, we were talking about that earlier, weren't we, around kind of data
Yes.
sharing and the benefit of that. It's not just us as a community saying we want more data, we want more visibility of information so that we can challenge from a negative point of view. So that data could be used for a positive, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, you could take that data and say, okay, we know that we've been given a date in 2027, but everybody else has been given a date in 2030, and the substation's not going to be built until 2029. So how do I connect in 2027? That sense check, if you're just looking at your offer in isolation, it's very difficult to know unless you're communicating with the TO and really challenging that day in, day out, which is not efficient. At least if you had a register and some additional information, you could do that sense check and go, right, someone's just put the wrong number in, hey, it happens. Let's be grown up about it. Let's get it changed, sorted.
Mm.
Whereas if that doesn't happen, then a much less efficient process.
Yeah. And also potentially identifying like coordination opportunities with other developers. So if you have a few projects in the same area, you could see if you can install like a hub substation for a few projects, which might be preferable for all the developers.
But it's difficult for any individual developers to get that sort of holistic view. And we're obviously expecting NESO and the TOs to have done that job, as well as they can. But there's always the sense in which a challenge to that is a good thing. But it's quite difficult to. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out, and looking at that big picture view, and then certainly feeding in demand into that, because you not only maybe want a hub to connect a few generators into, but maybe there's a couple of demand projects that could connect into that hub as well. But that's all sort of potentially up in the air as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Alex, you were talking earlier actually about mod apps, just when you were speaking there about potential coordination and changes. That's a good point, because all that would require a mod app. But also, I'm sure there are plenty of projects sitting right now going, I haven't sat still for the last year. I've been doing something.
Yeah.
So do we see that as being a bit of a next hurdle?
Potentially, yeah. So, like you said, these projects will have been doing kind of internal development, potentially even going through planning or choosing different inverters or turbine sizes, doing that detailed design, which could mean that they could need a mod app, which obviously they couldn't do because of the application pause. They'll obviously have to wait until the next window. Might be at some point next year, mid to late next year. That's probably what we're expecting. They'll obviously have to comply with the new NESO guidance on whether it is a gated mod app or an allowable change. So there are additional things that these projects will have to think about. Yeah,
which is, it could be quite a big impact, because if we're just thinking about a project that maybe could be a 2028, 2029 project, it's already potentially a little bit up against it from a build-out perspective, particularly if we're talking transmission. And then you go, right, we've done a lot of additional work, but we need to make a mod app. If that process has to go through the gated mod app process, which is about kind of 9 months end to end, that's a huge, 9 months end to end before you've actually accepted something new. That's a massive impact. It really just pushes everything out by a year. And then who takes that risk? Is it, where are you then in the milestones and from a delivery point of view? So, yeah, I think we need to, as an industry, if we've not already, things move at quite a fast pace, but for me, that's one that we need to resolve so that changes like that can be made much, much more quickly.
Feels like we're coming to the end of this. We're being waved at to cut the podcast short. Anything else to add in before we stop? It's going to be really important.
I think everything's the challenge is there are so many things, but I think with what we've just discussed now are probably some of the key kind of takeaways that everybody can consider, I think, across all projects.
So it feels like some of the key things that we talked about, to summarise and chip in if I haven't got this right. Obviously, cost is going to be really important, and where are the costs coming from? So is it a change in scope or just an inflationary increase? And then have we got like the right categorisation of costs across projects? Have we got the right one-off works and connection asset works and reinforcement and enabling works and so on? Then we've got timescales issue. How far out is it moving? Securities, liabilities. They're some of the crucial things, aren't they?
Yeah, and then I think for the TOs, the networks, then the ask really is sharing of information. Trying to make it as easy as possible so that it's not sharing of information. Again, as we said, as a negative, because sometimes there's negative connotations of what's that information being used for, etc. But generally speaking, is to actually help the networks in a lot of cases, because it creates a lot of inefficiency if we don't have that visibility. So that way, we'll ask that between now and actually that continuation of continually developing it through 2026 is going to be really the key.
Well, no doubt we will have to do another podcast when we've got the first Gate 2 offers in our hands and we've had a proper chance to look at the real thing. But we hope this was useful for listeners. Thank you for tuning in to another episode, and we look forward to having you again on the next episode. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining the Connectologists in this exploration. This knowledge sharing is made possible by the support of our clients. We thank them and hope that it will help the whole of industry to connect society's critical infrastructure faster. If you found this useful, you're welcome to explore more free insights at roadnighttaylor.co.uk/connectology, or click on the Insights tab at the top of our homepage. Thank you.